I'm currently reporting from Ukraine's Donetsk region, where we just heard the sound of an explosion in the background.
And I'm here at national border crossing in between Lebanon and Syria.
Just last week, Washington Post journalists around the world stepped away from their stories to address the paper's owner, Jeff Bezos. Rumours of swingeing cuts had been circulating for weeks. This public appeal felt like a last resort.
Please, Jeff, save the Post.
Please, Jeff, save the Post.
Overnight, many of those same people got confirmation that they'd lost their jobs. Ukraine correspondent Lizzie Johnson posting, "I just got laid off in the middle of a war zone. I'm devastated." The entire sports department shut down. It will now be covered as a cultural and societal phenomenon. The Post's long-serving Asia editor Anna Fifield among those to go, with foreign locations reduced to 12 from more than 20. She wrote, "My heart breaks for everyone who lost their job and the readers who'll be worse for it." In all, the paper is laying off upwards of 300 of its employees, about 30% of the workforce. The books department, the daily podcast among the casualties. It's been losing tens of millions of dollars a year. Its executive editor telling CNN this was a reset day, that Amazon founder Bezos remained committed to making it a bigger, relevant, thriving institution. But where he talked of reinvention, others see evisceration.
Today we saw painful layoffs at the Washington Post, part of a broader reprehensible pattern in which corporate decisions are hollowing out newsrooms across the country. When corporate interests gut local, national, and international journalism, communities lose watchdogs, truth loses megaphones, and democracy loses guardians.
Jeff Bezos bought the Washington Post for $250 million in 2013. He immediately tried to address what he called natural apprehension in a letter to staff, writing about journalism's critical role in a free society, and that he shared with the paper's previous owners, the Graham family, two kinds of courage. The first to say, wait, be sure, slow down, get another source. The second to say, follow the story, no matter the cost.
Sir, this is Carl Bernstein of the Washington Post, and I'm sorry to disturb you at this hour.
That evocation of the Post's long history of consequential journalism, most famously demonstrated in its investigation of the Watergate scandal, has come into question in recent years. In 2023, Bezos installed British executive Will Lewis as publisher and CEO. He's overseen major changes. Among them, the last-minute cancelling of the Post's endorsement of Kamala Harris ahead of the 2024 election, and what was seen as a rebalancing to the right of the opinion pages as Bezos developed ever closer ties to President Trump. His Amazon media arm spending an extraordinary $75 million on licensing and marketing a documentary about the First Lady.
So he's made a bunch of other allegations, so we may as well run through them. They're I listed 6 here.
His closeness to Trump now a marked shift from 10 years ago when he was asked by the Washington Post's then editor about allegations then candidate Trump made that Bezos was using the Post against him.
This is just very tactical to immunize against the media, and that none of this would happen. I still think from a cultural norms point of view, it's not the right kind of thing to do. It erodes our free speech norms.
The current editor says Bezos' commitment to those values is undimmed. But for the journalists who days ago were appealing for him to save the Washington Post, the sheer extent and nature of these cuts feels like something very different. Well, joining us now is Marty Baron, who was executive editor at the Washington Post between 2013 and 2021. Thank you very much for joining us today. Can I just ask you first for your reflections? You were there when Jeff Bezos took over later in 2013. The lion's share of your editorship was under his ownership. What are your reflections on this news?
Well, I'm very much saddened by what's happened. When Bezos bought the organization, he invested in it. He articulated our mission. He set a new course for us. And he spoke forcefully and eloquently about the mission of the Post and the mission of journalism generally. Right now, we see an organization very much in retreat. It's going to be doing far less around the world, in its own community, around the country, and that disturbs me greatly.
I mean, these are massive cuts, pretty much halving the footprint overseas in terms of locations, entire departments dispensed with. Bezos once talked about not being able to cut your way to relevance. I mean, how does the newspaper respond now? There's talk of reinvention at the same time as cutting a third of its workforce.
Well, there does need to be reinvention. I mean, look, the media environment, as you well know, has changed dramatically. And now, particularly with AI, people are just going online, putting in a search, and the chatbot tells them what's happening. That's had a dramatic effect on news organizations, and the Post is included in that. So they do need to innovate, and we did innovate in the past. I mean, in 2015 and 2018, Fast Company magazine named us the most innovative media company in the world, and in 2018, actually the 8th most innovative company in the world. So they need to keep changing, of course, but I would like to hear a strategy from the owner and from the publisher. But they were invisible yesterday. Bezos didn't speak. The publisher wasn't visible. They did not articulate a strategy that I could divine. They just talked about this would be a reset. Okay, fine. What's the reset?
One innovation that he did bring about was the decision not to endorse a candidate in the 2024 election. He's been seen to shift rightward somewhat the opinion pages of the Post. There have been people withdrawing their subscriptions en masse. I mean, do you see a shift in the political bias and a willingness to sort of cozy up to the current administration, as many critics would put it?
Historically, in the United States, there's been a wall of division between the news department and the opinion pages. And I believe that that's still in place at the Washington Post. I don't believe that Jeff Bezos has interfered in the news coverage whatsoever. But the decision not to endorse in 2024, and that decision being made only 11 days before the election, with the expectation that Donald Trump would likely regain the White House, that was a sign, I think, of cowardice, frankly, fear that Trump would be back in the White House, that he would seek revenge, as he promised to do during his campaign. And I see the changes on the editorial page and in the opinion pages generally. They will not publish columnists who are left of center, even slightly left of center. And Bezos said that when he announced those changes, that they simply would not include them in the opinion pages. And that is fundamentally undemocratic for a paper that purports to be advocating for democracy and then has as its motto, democracy dies in darkness.
And we've seen Bezos develop ever closer ties to the current president. He's splashed some $75 million on this documentary about the First Lady. Do you see an issue there that the proprietor himself may have shifted? I mean, can you talk about your relationship with him and what you've observed about his potential progress politically in the years since?
Sure. Well, when I was editor and during Jeff Bezos's ownership, he stood by us. He forcefully criticized and eloquently criticized Donald Trump for his attacks on the press. I admire that spirit. I just don't see that spirit today. Clearly, after Trump came back into the White House, there's been an effort on his part to repair his relationship with the president. Bezos was seen by Trump as a political enemy for one reason and for one reason only, and that was the coverage of the Washington Post. But Bezos has some businesses that are very dependent upon government contracts. Amazon has a huge number of government contracts, particularly for cloud computing. And then there's Jeff Bezos's personal company of private space company, Blue Origin. Just the other day, as a matter of fact, Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, or Secretary of War, as he likes to call himself, he appeared at Blue Origin, and Jeff Bezos was there, and they were laughing it up together. And it's remarkable because Pete Hegseth is the very man who asked the Department of Justice to raid the home of one of the Washington Post reporters. They seized all of her electronic devices. Pete Hegseth is the man who expelled all real journalists from the Pentagon, replacing them with propagandists and stenographers. So it was shocking to see that, disturbing to see that. And this is a paper that has long promoted itself as being an independent newspaper, and in its news coverage it has been, but I'm concerned about the behavior of the owner.
On the financial front, obviously there are two ways of looking at it. One is that a few tens of $1 billion is a bit of a rounding error for a man worth $250 billion. The other way of looking at it is that you can't really sustainably run a business that loses tens of millions of dollars a year. I mean, should he just have subsidized it?
Well, I'm one who believes that the Post and all news organizations should find a sustainable model. I think that's the only real answer. That assures our independence. I'm in favor of that, and I said that when he was the owner. I said that he's not going to treat us like a charity, and I don't believe that he should, because if one day, by the way, he decides that he wants to sell us, if we were subsidized by him, we'd be in terrible trouble under the aegis of a new owner.
All right, Marty Baron, former executive editor of the Washington Post, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you.